Welcome to the Wingate Way. We are super excited to bring you this homecoming edition. In this episode, we had an amazing conversation with our first ever alum, Anthony Daise, class of 2002. We talked about his family, growing up in a household with 6 kids. We talked about his time here at Wingate as a student. But of course, we also talked about what it means to him to be an alum to this amazing institution. Stick around for this episode of the Wingate Way. All right, well, Anthony, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for being a part of the show. This is a homecoming edition, so it's only fitting that it should be with an alum. So you are officially the first alum to be a part of the show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So for those who don't know you, and I'm certainly one of them, we've gotten to know each other a little bit, but I certainly still don't know you. For those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. Take us back from your childhood, where you are from, because I think that's always a good place to start if you truly want to understand someone.
Right. Oh, well, yeah, ask, where do I start, right? So yeah, I'm from a little town in South Carolina called North Augusta, South Carolina. I come from a pretty big family, 3 boys, 3 girls. I'm actually a twin. I have a twin sister. Of course, my mom and father were in the house, so they raised us. I came to Wingate in 1998 after graduating from Strom Thurmond High School in Johnston, South Carolina. And I was able to kind of come to Wingate on an athletic scholarship and also an academic scholarship. Okay. A lot of people don't know the academic piece of it. They just think, oh, Anthony, he came to Wingate on an athletic scholarship, but there was an academic scholarship that was a part of it. But yeah, I grew up with a large family. You would imagine 3 boys and 3 girls in a house.
Oh, yes.
1 bathroom.
That makes it for an interesting childhood and household. Yeah.
Right. We got into a lot of things. Learned a lot from each other. Learned a lot about ourselves growing up. How to kind of deal with different personalities, different mentalities, and things of that nature. And then, of course, having a mother and a father in a house that kind of provided that foundation, or almost like a blank canvas for us to kind of develop ourselves and kind of leave space for us to be who we kind of wanted to be. That makes for an interesting upbringing.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine, 6 kids, you having 5 siblings, I will assume there was a lot of competition, there was a lot of, trying to find your own voice, your own path, becoming your own person. So how would you say being a part of such a large family has shaped and contributed to like some of the characteristics and the personality traits that you see in yourself today?
That's a good point and good question. Competition was a big part of it. Of course, obviously with my brothers, but even with my twin sister specifically. We played everything there was to play, right? Yeah. We played basketball, we played football, we played hopscotch. We kind of diversified the activities, and it was always competitive. You wanted to be better than the person that you were going up against. I think about like my brothers. My oldest brother was 8 years older than I was. Okay. And then my middle brother was 3 years older than me. And then my older sister is 7 years older. And then I have a younger sister that's 8 years younger than myself. And of course I have a twin.
Okay.
But yeah, when I think about like competing against them in just various things, it was almost like that competition thing was innate. It wasn't taught to be competitive. You just ended up being competitive. You're doing something.
It's a function of the household.
Right. And it led to, sometimes some fights, right? You get so competitive and you get caught up in the moment and you're arguing or you're fighting. But then it led to learning experiences, right? Where you're learning something about yourself, or you're learning something about your sibling. And you just keep building on that. Like moment after moment, day after day, week after week, year after year, and it starts turning into something.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of big in my development, even as an athlete, is, I was the youngest of the three boys, so I lost a lot. When I say we were competitive, but I lost a lot. So I guess that was probably one of my early lessons in life, is to deal with failure.
Oh my God, yeah.
Dealing with losing when you really want to succeed, but the people you're competing against are just so much better than you, right?
Yeah.
They're just so much better, they're stronger, smarter, but in your mind, you feel like you can beat them, and you fail, but then there's something that could be innate in you when you, even though you fail, you keep trying, you keep trying and trying again, and I think that kind of worked in my favor as it relates to not just athletics, but other things too, even academically. When I think about just through going through like elementary, middle school, high school, and even at Wingate, I remember my oldest brother told me years ago, I may have been in like middle school, and he told me never to settle for a C. Never to settle for a C. And I was a decent student kind of at that time, but hearing that from a person that you kind of wanted to be like and you looked up to, it carried a little more weight. So it was like, if you're in class and if you do get a C and you're working hard for it, that's okay, but don't settle for a C, right? So that mentality, I think it just kind of stuck with me as it relates to academics, as I mentioned, athletics. It stuck with me as it relates to, I hadn't mentioned this, but we're actually sitting in an art museum, and I'm actually an artist.
Oh, wow. What type? What kind of art do you do?
I vary in different things. So I do a lot of portraits with acrylic paint. That's kind of one of the things that I'm kind of known for.
Yeah.
But I've done pencil drawings, I've done watercolor, I've built things, that I've designed out of my own mind, things, furniture or whatever.
We should have made this a part of the show, maybe a live show where I'm interviewing you and you're just drawing.
Well, so I was able to kind of improve my ability as an artist through that same mentality, though. Like I'm okay now, but I wasn't even okay when I started as an artist, right? But it was that thing, okay, you try it, you fail, you try it again, you fail, and you just keep trying, And sooner or later, you start to get better, right? You may not ever be great, but you're getting better. So, so when I think about kind of that advice that my oldest brother gave me growing up, like never settle for a C, I think I took that and I ran with it, right? And I applied it to different aspects of life, even in my adult life, as it relates to my career and things of that nature. Things are not going to always go your way. And sometimes you don't really get that in high school and college. You go to class and you're taught curriculum, the subject matter and things like that. But there's other things from a career standpoint that you have to be able to adjust to or accept and tolerate and things of that nature. But it's that mentality of, you just keep going. You might fail, but you keep going. But that kind of goes back to that competitiveness that you mentioned, like it overlaps or it spills over to other aspects of life. Yeah.
I mean, that's, when we are shaped by our environment, we think the characteristics that we develop are innate because we are so unaware of how much our environment has shaped us. So these were, I'm sure you are finding out in your adult life, such important lessons for you to learn at such a young age. So you of course, is quite unique to grow up in a household where you have 5 siblings, but you are also a twin. Like, what is that experience? Like, what is that special relationship that you have? First of all, are you guys identical twins? And talk a little bit about that relationship.
Good question. So I have a twin sister, and we look nothing alike. You can have a boy and a girl, and they have similarities, but I'm tall, she's shorter, I'm a lighter skin, she has a darker complexion than I, different color eyes. I would even say our mentalities and personalities are different. Growing up with a twin, it was special, it was unique, because you always have somebody that's like right there with you. You go to kindergarten, you got your sister with you. You go to first grade, you got your sister with you. You get into sports, and that, she was an athlete too, a very good athlete, better than I was.
What sport?
She played basketball as well. Basketball as well. She was better than me, smarter than me, but that person's always right there. So all the way through kind of high school, that's the way it was. And then we kind of got in college, we kind of veered and went in different paths and things like that. And that was just that one instance where we were not around each other anymore, right? But you go through all of your young life and that person's right there. Yeah. And so kind of gives you someone you can bounce things off from time to time as it relates to what's going on at school, what teachers you like, what teachers you do not like, what people you just stay away from, things like that. But it was cool having a twin. And then my other siblings, and I think about like my older sister and my older brother. They felt more like another set of parents to me. Yeah. You have your core parent, your biological parents, and they're raising you, they're disciplining you, but then you have a sister and older brother that are 7 and 8 years older than you, so they get to discipline you, right? They get to tell you right and wrong. So it's like you have 4 people. So I mean that makes for an interesting upbringing.
I mean, when you think about it, like as well-intentioned and as willing as your parents are, with the work and 6 kids, like you have to rely on the older siblings to help, with raising the kids essentially. So it completely makes sense that your older siblings stepped into that role, and it was probably a natural. Okay, it makes sense.
It was very, very natural. It didn't seem like they had a problem with being the older brother or the older sister, and I think it helped us, right? Yeah. Just having that many people around you in your house that could give you instruction. I mean, as a kid, you may not get it, right? Leave me alone and let me do what I want to do. But as you get older and you look back, you're like, wow, you did have a lot of support right there in your house. And there's a lot of individuals in this world that don't have that benefit, right?
There's something you mentioned earlier, which I think is so relevant, for us being in a context of a university and context in higher ed, and just the conversation that I have with students all the time, is this, the relationship that we have with failure, the relationship that we have with setbacks, and I think in many ways, one of the biggest things that separate our students is their ability to rise above obstacles, to overcome feedback, to bounce back from failure.
Right.
Is there an event or moments in your life, like give us an example of a moment in your life where you really, really, really had to dig deep to carry on and to just move on from a setback, a failure, or...
That's a lot of things, and that's a lot of things. I mean, if I had to think of maybe a couple things that come to mind right away, I would probably think about losing my 2 brothers when I was in high school. My middle brother and then my oldest brother. My middle brother was 18 when he passed away. At the time, I was 15, going on 6. I was 14. I was 15. And then my oldest brother, he was 24 when he passed away, so I was around 17 at the time. So in less than a 2 years time frame, my family and we lost immediate family members. So that was tough, right? Because you're used to people being around you, those people being around you. I remember sleeping in the same room as my brothers, 3 boys piled in one room, and you get to know a lot about each other, right? And even in the different sporting activities we participated in, you learn a lot about each other. You learn a lot about each other just about sitting in your living room and watching TV or playing games. So I would say those 2 events were probably 2 of the bigger events in my life where I had to kind of
I cannot even imagine,
figure out how to keep going, right? And I think that was the answer to it, is I just kept going, right? You never really truly get over someone that's close to you, no longer being on this earth. But I kind of look back to kind of the things that they taught me as big brothers, and they usually would tell me when times get tough that you just got to kind of tough it out. They wouldn't have wanted me to stop, shut down. Not focus on my grades, not focus on basketball and whatever else I had going on. They wouldn't want me to stop painting or stop drawing, just keep going. So it's easier said than done. You say, okay, just keep going, if that's the advice you're gonna give someone. But again, I know it's hard, and somehow I did it. I think about years after I had graduated from college, and I had an opportunity to have dinner with a former high school teacher of mine, art teacher, was one of my favorite teachers. And she actually came to Charlotte and we ate, and she started talking about that event because she knew my brothers.
Okay.
She knew my brothers. And I remember her saying to me, she was like, Anthony, to be honest with you, and I was in my early 30s, I guess at that time. She was like, you weren't really supposed to make it through that. And then when she said that, that was surprising to me. That, and she didn't say that in a disrespectful way. She was like, that was something very hard.
Of course.
And I never thought about it like that. Like I wasn't supposed to make it through it. I was just like, yeah, it's gonna be hard, but I gotta make it through it. So when she said that, it just hit me a certain type of way. Yeah. I'm like, I never stopped to think about it like that. But yeah, again, I think my brothers and then my family and extended family, uncles, one uncle in particular that offered advice. Hey, you need something, I'm there for you. That type of thing, and that's important as you go through life. Have people around you that support you and that are thinkers and that'll tell you when you're right, tell you when you're wrong. Because how else are you going to grow if you never know your flaws? Yeah,
right. I mean, I cannot even fathom. I mean, I have two sisters. I'm a middle child. Okay. So like hearing you losing not one but two siblings is something that even as a thought experiment is just super painful. So there, of course, as an individual, and like your teacher was mentioning, like it either makes you or it completely breaks you. As an individual and I'm sure as a family. So those kinds of things either bring families together, right, or it absolutely breaks them apart and crumbles them. And it seems, I hope I'm right, that for you and as a family that was a defining event in, I guess, in some positive way, for lack of a better word, really.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But that's life, though, right? Yeah, those were two very adverse, extreme events that happened in my life, but there were other things that even happened after that. Yeah. There's going to be something else that's going to happen after you and I leave from having this conversation here today. And as I've gotten older, I began to realize even more that you got to find some way to get through adversity as soon as you can, because there's going to be something else to come up.
That's one of the only things is guaranteed.
As long as we're breathing, something else is going to come up. It's a big world, big people, different things are going on. I mean, you can see what's going on in the world right now with the pandemic and the social unrest and things like that. Yeah. There's always something going on, so you have to find some way to adjust to adversity sooner than later so you can be somewhat ready for the next thing if there is a ready for the next thing. Yeah. But it's just tough. Life is what it is. But there are periods, right, in between those moments of adversity where there's good things. So in that meantime, you got to enjoy those times, right?
Of course. Right. And I think that's one of the things that loss teaches you, is to cherish and to hold on and to appreciate those moments that you are talking about and to be grateful for them. So Wingate, then, like how did Wingate come to be? How did you arrive here? Why Wingate? And what was the plan?
I mentioned I came to Wingate in 1998. I came up here on an official visit, and I didn't know a lot about Wingate when it was first brought to my attention that they were considering me as a potential student athlete. And so when I came up, I was impressed with the campus. I got an opportunity to meet the president at that time, which was Dr. Jerry McGee. He felt like a very genuine person. Not only that, but he talked about the things that he was doing at the university and was planning to do in the future.
And this was during your visit?
This was during my visit. Yeah, I mean, I'm 17 years old at that time, and I'm sitting in the office of the president, and other athletes can probably tell you some of the same stories where they got a chance to meet Dr. McGee and him just kind of talk about himself, kind of being, NCAA Division I referee and a president of a university. If I'm not mistaken, he may have been the only one at that time.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know if there's any now, but at that time, and that was very impressive that he was able to juggle something like that. Yeah. And I kind of knew, he talked about, I think, his time at Furman University before coming to Wingate. I think he was maybe a vice president or something at Furman.
So, yeah.
So all of that was kind of interesting to me. I'm 17 years old from a small town, and then I got a chance to meet a math professor here, Dr. Greg Bell.
Dr. Bell, yeah.
Dr. Bell, and again, another seemed very genuine, smart person. Just in that moment that I got a chance to sit down and kind of talk to him, because one of the reasons that I got a chance to talk to him is because when I came to Wingate, I was expecting to major in mathematics and education, because I wanted to be a high school math teacher, and maybe even coach a little bit on the high school level. So they thought it would be a good idea, obviously, for me to talk to a math professor.
Teacher, yeah.
So I talked to Dr. Bell, and just seemed to be a genuine person, and he showed that throughout the years that I've known him. When I come back to campus and I see him, we still talk, and that's been over 18 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm not at all surprised by these stories. I think we all have a story like that. My Dr. McGee story is, I'm a freshman, and I'm walking back from the CAF, and I know he's the president, but of course I don't know that he knows me. And he says to me, "Good game last night." And I'm like, what? So he calls me by my name and he congratulates me on the game, and that just blew my mind, that first of all, the president knew who I was and that he was there for the game, and I think I just got that similar, just moment of awe that like this person that is so high up is not supposed to know who I am. And it has seemingly taken a keen interest in me and is taking the time and the effort to acknowledge me and acknowledge what I was doing on campus. Yeah.
And that says something, right? That you have a similar experience, and I know of other people that attended Wingate that have a similar experience. And I think that is almost a proof of someone that's pretty genuine, right? Because if you're genuine, you're going to be that type of person, if not all the time, most of the time. So that's why we can have a similar experience with that same person, because that's who they are. And so that's like the thing that I noticed when I came to Wingate, when meeting Dr. Bell and then the coaching staff at the time. They seemed to be genuine people. So I mean, I had a few other opportunities to go to other universities and colleges, and I settled here at Wingate.
Dr. Bell and Dr. McGee sealed the deal.
They sealed it. They sealed it. But yeah, I mean, the coaching staff was fine. The players at the time was fine. Even the players that we ended up getting ended up being good people. Good players and things like that. But it's separate from just like the athletic side of it, just the university in itself, it just felt good. There's a lot of universities, right, that have that same feeling. And at the end of the day, you have to make a decision and go to one of them, right?
It's funny, like, we try to put our finger on that thing that you just talked about. And we sometimes ask students, like, why Wingate? And, like, the number of times we get this, when I step on campus, I just know. It just felt right. It just felt good. So like we hear this exact sentence over and over again, and I think that's certainly one of the reasons this show exists, is because somewhere along the way we realized that there's something unique happening here, and that if we are not going to be able to put a finger on it, if we're not going to be able to articulate it, perhaps we should let the people that have gone through it, that are going through it, share their experience, and there's a thread that might emerge about this special something that seems quite elusive.
That's a good way to put it.
So you also say that you met Dr. Bell because you were supposed to be a math teacher. So what do you do? I feel like there's a story there somewhere.
So currently I'm a financial consultant at Wells Fargo here not here, but in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is not a math teacher, right?
Which is not a math teacher, okay.
I mean, I came to Wingate, and probably during the first year and maybe year and a half, that was the path I was going, to be a high school math teacher, majoring in mathematics and education. I started taking a lot of coursework related to that, and I think I had even started doing a little bit of field placement at, I think it was Sun Valley High School, which is not too far from here.
Okay.
But then I also started doing research about earning potential of high school teachers in this state and other states, but specifically in the Charlotte area, because I was considering if I graduated from Wingate that I would stay in the Charlotte area. And when I compared that pay to other careers, there was a huge difference, right? It seemed like the trajectory wasn't as sloped as it relates to being a high school teacher versus some of these other careers. Yeah. And so then I was torn with that struggle of, do I settle for less from a financial standpoint and then do something that I have passion for, and that passion would be teaching and helping to develop individuals.
And then just how noble that profession is and important.
It's very important. And it's still surprising to me how something hasn't really changed in a material way as it relates to teachers at secondary level and on back, because these are kids that are helping, these are teachers that are helping to mold our children, right?
Of course.
And
of course, what a responsibility.
A big responsibility, right? These are teachers that are molding the children that are going to be citizens one day in the various towns, cities, and states across this country. And I don't know if we show them appreciation enough through the compensation.
Absolutely.
Right? That's just my thought on it. I mean, some individuals may think a little bit differently about that. So that discouraged me, and I went a different route. I changed my major to business and mathematics, and I minored in accounting so that I could move into corporate America. But at the same time, I made sure that I kept my mathematics part of my major, because I thought, like, later in life, if I get to a point where I'm not so keen on earnings and trying to make a certain amount of money for a certain type of a lifestyle, that I could still go back and do maybe like lateral entry and still be a teacher at some level. So that's kind of the story there. Like, I started out, and I think a fair amount of students may do that. You have an idea what you want to be, and something happens that may causes you to veer a different way.
And that's a good point. I mean, I want you to speak on that piece, because I know, the idea of changing your major or going a different route, or you for years you thought you wanted to do one thing, and then you have to change your mind. This is a decision that we see students wrestle through time and time again, and it even causes a lot of anxiety. So in hindsight, like, what would you say to a student that is going through, that is at that juncture right now and is trying to figure out at the fork of the road which path to choose?
It's okay to be at that place. I would say there's no need to have anxiety behind it, because there's probably a fair amount of people, probably more people than not, that go through that. I mean, you have to be fair to yourself. You're 17, 18, maybe 19 years old.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm the age I am now, and I still don't have life figured out. So how can we expect someone in college to have life figured out, or even your career figured out to a certain extent? Now, don't get me wrong. There are some people that have it figured out at that point. But if you don't, that's okay. But you, at the same time, you want to be careful, right? You don't want to be still making your mind up for 5 years after you've already been in college, right? Because college isn't free, right? Someone's paying for it.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. Whether you're on a scholarship or not, or your parents are paying for it, or you're working yourself to help pay for it, somebody's paying for it, right? So you want to be serious about your career path and what you're majoring in and things of that nature. But I would say try not to have anxiety. Sometimes you can't really control anxiety because it just happens. But sometimes if you control your thinking, you can control your anxiety, right?
Absolutely. Come what we think.
I just think it's okay to be at that particular place and just continue to think about it. Like, talk to different people, right? Like, if it's a counselor here at the university, maybe it's someone in your family, maybe there's friends you can talk about, just to bounce some ideas off of that can help you kind of figure out what path you should take. But yeah, I think it's kind of normal though for people to kind of go through
and
that.
I think, you know, when you are, I had a guest in this chair not long ago, Dr. Janice Monday, who I think said it so well. She said the idea that a 17, 18-year-old person should know what they want to be or do for the rest of their life is just unrealistic, right? So students should understand and accept those moments as normal, as almost inevitable, whether or not they happen in college. Like for some people, they happen later. There's just always comes a moment in life where life demands your attention and demands that you make a choice. And typically, when we look back at those moments, we realize that they were somewhat of almost an origin story of a sort. Yeah, there was a turning point there. But it's hard when you're going through it. It only works in hindsight.
right. And it's like with most things, right? You look back, oh, well, it wasn't really a big deal. I shouldn't have been worried about that. But I get why individuals would be kind of stressed out about it. And then also you kind of think about like coming into college, there's pressure maybe from your guardians or parents, whoever's raising you, to know what you want to do, right? And it's like, come on, don't put that pressure on them. I mean, help them think through it, and hopefully they know, but if they don't know, it might take a year, a semester or 2 or 3, but it's normal. There's just so much to do in this world.
Absolutely. So we have such an amazing alumni base, you know, and there are so many people that could be sitting in that chair right now. But I think as big as that number is, it's still something that as an alum, like it's a choice that you still have to make, to stay in touch with your alma mater and to contribute to it and to stay connected. Like what does it mean to you to be an alum at Wingate, and what does it matter to stay connected and to stay involved as an alum?
Well, I say to myself, why would I want to disconnect from something in my life that's been positive for me, right? And I've also known it to be positive for other individuals. Am I saying it's been positive for everybody? I'm not saying that, but I can speak for myself. And again, I've had conversations with various alumni over the years, still keep in contact with various alumni, and for the most part, it's been beneficial to them. So I think that's part of the reason that I try to stay connected to it, is because it's a thing that's positive. It's been positive in my life. And I think that's one of the things about me in general. Like the university, the buildings are just the buildings, right? I mean, it's nice to see new, fancy buildings. That's great. You want to see that, but the people make the place.
Absolutely.
Wherever you go in life.
Absolutely.
Wherever you work, the people make the place. And the people that I've experienced during my time at Wingate, even after, like just coming back and just feeling the vibe from the current students, it's a good experience. So that's part of the reason why I don't mind coming back. And if it's giving my time for something like this, maybe to help the university or help maybe the students, I'll do that. Whether it's, giving back to the university financially, whether it's a small amount or a large amount, I think it's important to do that, because again, there's a lot of students that have come through and will continue to come through this university that will benefit from alumni giving back. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be money, though. It could be, as I mentioned, time, because all of that is valuable. I mean, to be honest with you, we might not, sometimes we lose track of this, but time is more valuable than money,
of course,
right? Because we don't know how much time we have on this earth, right? And money is just money, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, it has its place. It allows for a certain type of lifestyle and things like that, but time is definitely limited, right? So if you choose to donate your time to do anything, whether it's things in your local community, whether it's, even the time you spend with your family is time that you're donating with your family. You think you're supposed to do that, but it's still time that you're taking out your day to focus on that thing. The world is full of people that contribute time and money and advice and their knowledge and things like that. So I feel like if I can contribute in one or more of those ways I just mentioned, then I'll do it. And not saying that I can always do that. There will be times where I may want to help and I can't. So because I have to be fair to myself. But at the same time, I think it's for the greater good. I think about when I was younger. my dad, he used to send money to the university. And I remember, again, young and dumb, probably dumber than I am now, I don't know. It's like, well, no, so why do you do that? And he just said to me, boy, and that's probably the one time that somebody could, your father is probably the one person that can call you a boy and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, of course.
Right, but he said, boy, there's other students that could possibly benefit from me giving whatever I'm giving.
Yeah.
And I got it.
Yeah.
I understood that.
Yeah.
And I think that also is part of the reason why I continue to try.
I mean, for me personally also, just like you, I'm forever indebted to this place, for people like your dad who give to this place, but also for the individual that give of their time, that saw something in me and decided to make a personal investment in my growth, in my success, in my development, and I just feel forever indebted to this place. So this is a homecoming edition of the Wingate Way.
Okay.
So how has homecoming evolved and changed over the years from your time as a student and now when you come back as an alum? Like, what are some of the things that stick out as being different?
There's more energy.
Yeah.
There was energy then, but there's more energy now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that, when I come back for the different events, whether it's participating in the golf tournament, the fundraiser that the Bulldog Club, Bill Nash puts together, seeing that, being a part of that. And if I'm not mistaken, that may have been going on when I was at Wingate. Wow. I was, as a student, I wasn't thinking about that. But I would imagine that's even grown over the years, and that's usually a good time. And then just coming back and seeing how things are kind of centralized, like when I think about how now you have the tailgating and things like that that occurs right around the stadium. And again, you can just kind of feel the energy. You can just feel people having a good time. Not to say that, again, we didn't have a good time when we were here. It was just like things have improved. Yeah. And you want to see that.
I think the first time I saw you, we didn't meet then, but the first time I saw you, I think it was last year, and you were receiving an award. I think it was the Champion of Diversity award from, I can't remember the exact title, but I think it's Champion of Diversity.
Yeah, that's it.
What does that moment mean to you? What does receiving an award like that mean to you? And what does it even mean to receive that award?
Yeah, receiving that award is kind of bittersweet for me.
How so?
I say that because it's good to be recognized for things that are positive. It's good to be recognized for that. But in my mind, the work that I've done that led to me getting recognized for that award, I didn't do that. I didn't do that work to get recognized for it. I didn't do it to get an award. I did it because I wanted to try to help somebody, and that's why it's bittersweet, because it's like I really appreciate the recognition, but that just wasn't my objective.
Yeah. What is the work? What is
right? Yeah. So over the years, I've been a mentor for. Even talking about it feels kind of weird for me, because
and it's funny because I laugh because. The very fact that you feel you don't deserve recognition, or that you shy away from receiving the recognition, is probably the very reason that got you nominated for what you do. It's just the spirit and the purity of that kind of altruism that, probably got you nominated in the first place.
Right, yeah, you're probably right. So even talking about what I've done, it feels, to be transparent in this moment, it's an odd feeling, because I'm still getting recognized for that, but that's not why I did that work. So, but to answer your question, so I was a mentor for Big Brothers Big Sisters. It's a national organization where they pair up individuals with young kids, whether it be boys or girls that or need mentors. And that's one of the challenges they've had with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and probably other organizations, where they have more children that need to be mentored than they have mentees. Yeah, in fact, mentors.
They have mentors.
Mentors, right? Yeah. And I didn't know a whole lot about Big Brothers Big Sisters. I happened to be reading a book years ago by an actor by the name of Hill Harper, and the name of the book was a letter to my little brother.
Okay.
And in reading the book, he mentioned Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and the book was a letter that it was a culmination of letters he had been writing to his mentee.
Okay.
And I said, wow, this seems like an interesting organization. And I started doing some research on it and went through an interview process, background check, and I qualified to be a mentor, and they paired me up with a kid at the time. He's a man now, a young man now, that was in the 8th grade, and I ended up, spending a decent amount of time with him. I feel like I learned more from him than he probably learned from me.
As often happens.
Yeah, with all the things that he had to overcome in his life. So that was one of the things, and I was a big brother for 4 years until he aged out of it. You age out of it at like 17 or 18 years old. But he and we still maintain a relationship today. Wow. And then the other thing that I think is the reason that I was recognized for that award is I volunteer on the board of directors of a charter school here not here, but in Charlotte, North Carolina, it's Sugar Creek Charter School that serves about over 1,700 kids.
Oh, wow.
Kids that come from kind of low income, high poverty type areas. And it's K through 12.
Okay.
And so I've been on that board for over 3 years, and actually I just was asked to be the treasurer of the board of directors, and I put some thought into that, and after thinking through that, for quite some time, I decided to take on that role. So I'm currently the treasurer of the board. But again, even talking about that right now, inside it just feels weird because I know I keep repeating that. I just didn't sign up to do it to be recognized.
Yeah.
Just looking for a way to help people because I know I've been helped so many times throughout my life.
I mean, it feels like a full circle moment, from the moment where you decided that maybe teaching wasn't the path for you,
right?
And now you are in that place where you are in education and you are providing the kind of support and opportunity and impact that you hoped you would have had in the classroom. That's quite amazing, actually.
That's one of the things that made it kind of unique when I decided to join that board, is because going back to what I was saying earlier about the decision I had to make about transitioning or moving away from being a high school math teacher to a career that, from a financial standpoint, would create probably maybe more opportunities than being a teacher would. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, you can still have a successful life and career as a teacher, but obviously there's other things that would afford you a better life. But so fast forward to that, back to the decision as it relates to whether or not to join this board, and that was actually maybe the third time I had been asked to be on a board, and I turned the other 2 opportunities down. And I said, well, maybe this is that time in life where life is trying to put you where you need to be or should be. And with that being said, I decided to join the board because I was like, okay, this isn't even about money, right? I'm volunteering my time for this. To do something that I know I have a passion, to be connected to something, let me say it like that I have a passion for, and that's the development of children, right? Obviously I'm not the teacher in the classroom, I'm not the superintendent, I'm not any of the principals or anybody in administration, so I don't have the day-to-day interactions with the students. But some of the decisions that we are making as a board obviously will impact those students.
Yeah, of course.
That's a big family. I kind of look at Sugar Creek as a family of over 1,700 students. And then if you throw in the staff, there's maybe 150 or 200 staff, right? So the decisions that we're making as a board impacts all those people, right? That school has to be successful, not only for the students, but also for the staff and the administration who has family that are depending on them having a job and continuing to teach these kids. So I know it's a big role to be on the board of directors and to be a treasurer. So that's one of the reasons why I put a lot of time into making that decision. But yeah, to the point you were making, it's like it's kind of come full circle to a certain degree. Even though you have to set aside time to do things as it relates to being on the board, but it's worth it.
Yeah, of course.
It's worth it.
Of course. I mean, I think this is a good place as any to end this amazing conversation at this full circle moment, a place where finally you are able to live up to the purpose that you know deep inside of you was part of the reason you were on this planet.
Right.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.